Back in 2019, I ended up deciding to take a month off of social media, and I mainly did it because I felt like at the time, like I was just listening to so many people, I was following so many people, and I really didn't understand how the social media burnout, if that's even a thing, was even impacting me. So I remember one time just deciding that I was going to take a 30-day detox from social media, and that 30 days ended up turning into 2 years. So if you don't necessarily want to remove your social media, in today's video, I'm going to go over 5 things that you can do to reduce it. When I first had my other social media accounts, I was definitely someone who just like followed everyone. If I found them interesting, or if I liked something on their page, or if I was like following friends, I was following different people. Now, granted, it definitely I think was like under 500. I don't really remember what it was. And one thing that I started to realize was paying attention to all these different people is like paying attention to all these different types of personalities. And I think sometimes we forget that no matter even if it's on a screen, we're still taking in that type of energy. So one thing that I started to do is be more cautious of the types of people that I follow and the types of accounts that I follow. So before you just end up following a whole bunch of people, ask yourself, why are you following them? What are you getting out of following this person? And I think when we start to do that more than just follow anyone, we become more conscious of the types of personalities and the types of things that we want to actually engage with on a daily basis. Another thing that I do when it does come to questioning the types of people that I follow is making sure that they align with my future self rather than my past self. So I don't really follow friends on my new Instagram anymore. I just feel like if I still talk to you, then that is a good way of maintaining a friendship. But to me, I find it pretty pointless to follow old past coworkers or follow people that I no longer stay in touch with. So one thing that I do now is I only follow really people that I see that I want to align the type of a life that I want, or they offer some type of value to me. So one thing that I highly suggest is if you're following someone, really ask yourself, why are you following that person? Is that person someone you stay in contact with? Is this person someone you could learn something from? I think when you have a more conscious reason of why you're following someone on social media, it helps you be more aware of the types of things you are surrounding yourself with, even when it comes to using an app. This brings me to my next one, which is I remove social media apps that I no longer use. When I first started quitting social media, one of the apps that I rarely ever used was Facebook. Facebook, I think, was like one of the first ones that I ever deleted. And I tried TikTok for like 2 videos and then I stopped using it. But one thing that I do now is I monitor how many social media accounts I have, because the thing is like the more social media accounts that you have, the more you're going to spend on social media. So one thing to do is monitor how many social media accounts you actually have and see which ones you use the least and think about removing those. I think when you start to reduce the amount of social media that you're on, it then makes you become more focused in doing the things that you want to do and centering on your own life rather than paying attention to what's going on with so many other people on so many different platforms. So another thing to do is look at the amount of social media apps that you follow and see if there's 1 to 2 that you could remove or just 1 to 2 that you stay on. The third thing is I no longer take selfies. So unless they're serving a specific purpose, I rarely don't even take selfies anymore. I think the whole thing when I first had my social media, like I would take a lot of selfies and post a lot of selfies, but then I realized, what am I doing this for? So I think when you're in like beauty or lifestyle or fashion, then yeah, it makes sense. But depending on what you're using it for, one thing that I've just found to be really useful is to no longer take selfies, because if I'm no longer taking selfies, I'm no longer posting the selfie and therefore I'm spending less time on the app. So one thing that I just started to do was like, if I want to take a picture of something like trees or nature or my food, I'll just take a picture and hold the picture in my phone and not necessarily post it unless there's a specific reason of why I post it. So another thing to do is pay attention to the things that you tend to post often and why you're posting them, because I think when you realize why you're posting certain things, you wonder if you're actually needing to post this or if you're really posting this for a specific reason. Another thing that I do is I move the social media apps to the last page on my phone. So I don't really know how to explain it, but it's like when the phone has like all those different types of slides, I ended up putting the Instagram slide on the last page. So I ended up doing that because I remember one time, anytime when I would like open up my phone, it was just like the easiest thing to click on and then start looking at things, and then I end up going into like this scrolling type of routine. So one thing I do is I put all of my important things that I want to have on the first slide, and then I put the Instagram app all the way on the last slide. And I found that because I made it much more harder for myself to go and click on the actual app, it's less likely for me to automatically just mindlessly go on it. So if you have an iPhone, I don't know how galaxies work, but if you have an iPhone, one thing to do is put it to your last slide, because it makes you less likely to automatically click on it when you first open your phone. You also can add a timer on it. I've just found that that hasn't been helpful, because I would just say, okay, I went past my time. It'll make me be more mindful of how long I'm spending on it. But to me, when I put the timer on it, I felt like it was never really working. So I just found that putting it to the last slide has actually been much more helpful. And the last tip is to have blackout times that you're off social media. So just like you're at a job and then there's certain days that you can't request off, because those tend to be like the high traffic type of days. I forgot what the word is called, but there's like blackout days when it comes to going to Disney. There's blackout days when it comes to working at your job. Like there's certain days that you just can't take off. One thing I do is I just put that towards when it comes to social media, where certain times of the day I just stay off of social media. So usually like anything before 9 or anything after 10, I usually have those as like a blackout time. Because I've been getting on it less, I haven't really had to pay attention to it of like staying off of it at a certain time. But one thing to do, especially when you get up in the morning, is to avoid going on social media. I found that I tend to click on YouTube a lot quicker, so I'm learning to reduce the amount of times I actually get up and go on YouTube. But when it comes to like social media apps like TikTok or Instagram, one thing to do instead is to have blackout times where you're off of social media and you don't go on it. So those are my 5 simple but highly effective ways of reducing your social media intake. I didn't think I was ever really someone who was addicted to social media until I found myself being more engaged in other people's lives and content rather than really paying attention to the things that I was doing and what I wanted to focus on. And I just think that when you start to spend less time just like scrolling and mindlessly scrolling, you start to spend more time with yourself of what you're doing, of what you're focusing on, of what you want. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. Definitely let me know which one you plan on trying, or which one you probably implemented yourself, or which one stood out to you the most. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.